He dreamt of a voice that called him by name, a sound that carried the quiet certainty of dawn. But for Father Elias, the dawn was a long, cold echo in his own small world. He was the gatekeeper of a forgotten place, a small stone church nestled where the fields met the silence. For 50 years, he had been the steady, unmoving light for those who passed through, the silent guardian of the sanctuary. But lately, the silence had become vast, and the sanctuary felt more like a tomb of good intentions. Father Elias was old. His hands, once strong enough to hoist the heavy gospel, now trembled slightly as they polished the bronze crucifix. The air in the rectory was thick with the scent of old paper, dust, and time slipping away. His body was tired. His soul, though still anchored in faith, was wearied by the persistent question that had begun to whisper in the deepest corners of his heart. Did I matter? He looked out over the nave. The pews were mostly empty. On Christmas and Easter, a few families would arrive, echoes of a vibrant past. But for most of his days, his congregation consisted only of the flickering sanctuary lamp and the silent stained glass martyrs who looked down with unchanging solemnity. He had prayed for revival, for a surge of grace, but all he received was the steady, lonely rhythm of his own footsteps. The seed of doubt, though small, was relentless. It wasn't doubt in God, no. It was doubt in himself, in the efficacy of his gentle, quiet life. He had wanted to be a firebrand, a man whose words turned the masses. Instead, he became a candle, easily overlooked. He had kept the gate, but how many had truly passed through to salvation under his watch? The fear of a life spent in noble, yet ultimately fruitless endeavor was the final, heaviest burden an old servant could carry. Tonight, the cold felt different. It was the cold of profound exhaustion. He prepared the altar one last time before resting, his movements slow and practiced, rituals ingrained over half a century. He placed 2 silver candlesticks, gifts from his ordination, upon the altar. Their flames were the only things in the dim church that refused to yield to the overwhelming shadow. He knelt, not to pray for others, but for a single selfish thing: confirmation. "Lord," he whispered, the sound barely disturbing the air, "before the final call, grant me just one sign. Tell this tired old man if my life, spent here in the quiet, has meant anything at all." He did not wait for an answer. The weariness won. He retreated to his worn armchair in the rectory, the scent of the flickering candles and the cool stone his last earthly sensations. And then he slept. It was not the sleep of the weary, it was the sleep of transition. He awoke, not in his chair, but standing upon a shore of infinite stillness. The air was not air, but essence. The ground was not earth, but cool, smooth alabaster. Before him flowed the silver river. It was wide and deep, its surface liquid light, shimmering with the reflection of countless stars that did not belong to any known sky. It flowed without a sound, a metaphor made real. This was the boundary, the final separation between the toil of the world and the peace that surpasses all understanding. He felt no fear, only a profound, curious awe. Then he saw his 2 silver candlesticks. They stood impossibly upon the riverbank near a small, ancient rowboat. Their flames burned brighter than he had ever seen, casting long, wavering reflections into the silent river. Suddenly, a presence was known, not seen, but known, like a truth that permeates the very soul. It was a voice that did not use the mouth, but used the very fabric of his consciousness. "Elias, the watch is done. Are you ready to cross the silver river? Do you bring enough of what you have gathered?" The question was gentle, yet it held the weight of eternity. Elias looked down at his empty hands. He had no gold, no earthly rewards. All he possessed were his recollections. Then a terror seized him, the memory of his doubt. He turned and looked back towards the path he had traveled, the path of his life. There, Arrayed in a silent, sorrowful queue were the shadows. They were the souls he had failed to reach. The young man who stopped coming to Mass. The broken marriage he couldn't mend. The beggar he had passed by on a cold morning. These shadows were the sum of his perceived failures, the proof that his quiet life had not been enough. He felt the crushing weight of every unattended soul. I cannot cross, he thought, his heart sinking with profound sorrow. I have not gathered enough. I have lost too many. The gatekeeper has failed in his watch. He tried to walk towards the shadows, tried to embrace their sorrow, to pull them back, but an invisible barrier held him fast. His earthly heart, still tethered to human striving, was broken by his inability to save them all. The voice returned, not as a judgment, but as a calming wave. Elias, look not upon the shadows, but upon the light you bore. He looked back at the silver river. The 2 silver candles, the ones from his ordination, burned steadily. He recognized their light. The first candle, he realized, was faith. The second was hope. The voice continued, clear and resonant, slicing through the despair. You are not the shepherd, Elias. You were the gatekeeper. Your charge was not to bring them all home, for that is the divine task alone. Your charge was simply to ensure that for every soul who passed this way, the light of hope never went out. The message struck him with the force of 1,000 revelations. He was not judged on the number of souls who walked through the gate, but on the steadfastness with which he had maintained the light, the integrity of his presence. His silent, persistent life, the early mornings, the solitary prayers, the quiet upkeep of the sanctuary, these were not wasted efforts. They were the constant, unyielding maintenance of the light. He had kept the gate. He had ensured the candles burned. As this truth settled into his being, the despair lifted, and the shadows behind him did not vanish, but they receded, becoming indistinct, softened by an overwhelming compassion. He understood. Their fate was no longer his burden, but rested in the boundless mercy of the one who called him. Elias stepped forward, his heart now light, lighter than air. He walked toward the little rowboat and the 2 burning candles. The boat was small, meant only for one, and as he stepped in, the silver light from the river enveloped him. The gentle current began to pull him away from the shore of his human existence. He turned his gaze forward, toward the boundless expanse. He saw not walls, nor streets of gold, but a pure, perpetual light at the horizon. It was the source of all the river's silver sheen, the origin of the voice, the definition of every hope he had ever preached. It was love, vast and complete. He had not seen it with his eyes before, but now he knew. The true sanctuary was not the stone church he had maintained, but the unwavering presence he had pointed to. His life had been a sacred, necessary act of preservation. The journey was swift. The awe was complete. Father Elias awoke. He was back in his worn armchair. The air was heavy, but no longer cold. He felt no pain, no earthly ache. He felt only the exquisite, overwhelming peace of a man who has heard the final accounting and found his score to be far richer than he imagined. He looked towards the altar. The 2 silver candles still burned. He had asked for confirmation, and he had received it. A vision of his final resting place, a glimpse into the heart of God's quiet, abiding mercy. His life was not a tragedy of solitude, but a testament to constancy. He smiled, a deep, contented smile that chased away 50 years of doubt. He knew his gate was closed, his watch complete. With a final, gentle sigh of absolute surrender, Father Elias closed his eyes. The candles on the altar continued to burn, their silent witness affirmed by the river of silver light, waiting beyond the veil. For we walk by faith, not by sight, and the quietest of lives may carry the truest of confirmations.